Harley Davidson CEO announces total U.S. strategy overhaul amid sales collapse and Fanbase revolt. Harley Davidson's CEO just dropped a bombshell so massive it might shake the entire motorcycle world. He's scrapping Harley's U.S. strategy after brutal sales drops, an aging fan base, and failed Gen Z outreach like the LiveWire. Meanwhile, brands like Honda and Yamaha are stealing the spotlight and the market. Harley Davidson really thought they were making a power move when they handed over the keys to Jochen Zeitz, a guy whose biggest claim to fame was making Puma sneakers cool in the early 2000s. Now, here we are in 2025, watching the American icon bleed out in slow motion, while this so-called CEO drops an internal memo like it's some genius revelation. June 20th, 2025. That was the day this German strategist told the world Harley's US game plan was about to be completely reevaluated, which means everything's crashing, and they have no idea what to do. Let's be real, Zeitz didn't drop a bombshell. He dropped a cinder block on Harley's head. The memo blamed the chaos on three things: collapsing domestic sales, an aging fan base, and rising competition. You don't say, Jochen. You needed an entire memo to state the obvious? And what came next was even better. Harley's Q1 2025 earnings report hit like a slap, a brutal 19% drop in North American sales. Let that sink in. That's the steepest fall they've seen since the 2008 financial crisis. We're talking financial meltdown levels here. And guess what happened right after Zeitz's oh-so-visionary announcement? Harley's stock price nosedived 8.3% overnight. It went from $34.50 to $31.64 in a single drop. That's not a dip. That's a free fall. Investors freaked out, dealerships started sweating, and the only thing holding together the Harley community was the collective outrage brewing online. Zeitz tried to play damage control and said Harley must evolve to survive. Really? And evolving means what? Becoming a half-baked Euro luxury brand with identity issues? He didn't evolve the brand. He Frankensteined it. Social media? It had a field day. Not My Harley was trending faster than Harley's bikes can hit 60. Fans were calling this new direction a straight-up death wish on two wheels. And honestly, they weren't wrong. People weren't angry because Harley changed. They were angry because Harley was being gutted and paraded around like a fashion accessory. Zeitz turned an engine of rebellion into a press release. Now let's talk about the man himself. Jochen Zeitz, the sneaker guy. The corporate executive with a background in branding and zero understanding of biker culture. Why in the world would you put a Puma executive in charge of Harley Davidson? That's like asking a vegan chef to run a Texas BBQ joint. The man's biggest credential is making running shoes trendier, and suddenly he's steering a 120-year-old motorcycle dynasty? This isn't leadership. This is cosplay. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Jochen introduces the infamous Hardwire 2.0. That's not a strategic plan. That's what you call a bad Wi-Fi connection. He wants to pivot Harley into EV development, sustainable branding, and, wait for it, diversified mobility. Yes, because when bikers roll up to Sturgis, what they really want is a quiet electric ride and a lecture about carbon footprints. Harley riders don't dream of sustainability. They dream of thunderous engines, chrome, and wind in their face, not battery range and Bluetooth updates. Meanwhile, this man walked off with an $18 million compensation package in 2023. Let that sting for a second. Harley closed 6 U.S. dealerships, laid off 210 American workers, and pulled marketing from rural areas. But the sneaker whisperer still pocketed enough money to buy a fleet of overpriced LiveWires. The math doesn't add up. The ethics don't either. And who can forget that investor call in 2024? Zeitz had the nerve to describe Harley as a mobility company. You could hear collective eye rolls across the country. What is this? Uber on 2 wheels? Headlines roasted him on site. Harley's CEO thinks it's a scooter brand now. And honestly, that's the only time he's ever been accurately quoted. The man is so out of touch he makes a flip phone look modern. This is the same guy who tried to turn Harley's soul into a marketing gimmick and thought the audience would clap. Newsflash, nobody's clapping. Let's move on to what really matters. Numbers. The actual data that proves how bad this all is. Harley's global sales went from 194,000 units in 2019 to just 168,000 in 2024. That's a cliff dive. and the slope got steeper right after Zeitz took over. North America, the home turf, saw a 25% loss in volume. That's not a small dip. That's a full-on brand hemorrhage. And here comes the knockout. Honda. Yes, Honda is straight-up body-slamming Harley in their own backyard. In 2025 alone, Honda outsold Harley by 36% in the US. Not globally, not in Asia, in America, the same land where Harley was supposed to be king. Honda did this by targeting younger riders with smart, affordable models like the CB300R and Rebel 500, bikes that actually start in the morning and don't cost a year's rent. Let's talk pricing. Harley's average bike price now sits around $22,000. That's right, $22K for a motorcycle with base tech and a nameplate. Meanwhile, Honda's youth-friendly models go for as little as $4,900. You could buy 4 Hondas, toss in a helmet, and still have enough left over for gas and a taco run. Harley isn't just expensive, it's hilariously overpriced. It's the motorcycle version of a designer bag that falls apart in the rain. According to Cycle World, younger riders gave Harley a price-to-value score of 4.3 out of 10. That's just embarrassing. These aren't just not fans. These are actual motorcycle lovers who looked at Harley, laughed at the sticker price, and walked away. Why? Because the tech is outdated, the engines are stuck in the past, and nothing about the experience justifies the cost. It's like Harley is selling nostalgia while competitors are selling machines that actually work. And finally, the market share. Harley had 49% of the US market in 2010. In 2025, just 29%. That's a 20-point collapse. Where did all that share go? Right into the pockets of Honda, Yamaha, and even Royal Enfield. Yes, Royal Enfield. A brand that used to be laughed at in the American market is now riding right past Harley like it's a broken-down relic. So yeah, this is the bombshell, not some visionary new plan from Zeitz. The real bombshell is that Harley Davidson is falling apart in broad daylight, while the man running it is still trying to convince people they're a mobility company. He didn't just miss the mark, he shot the brand in the foot, handed the competition a first-place medal, and then smiled for the shareholders like everything was fine. Harley Davidson really thought it could stay relevant by selling nostalgia like it's 1997, while the world around them zoomed into 2025 on smoother, smarter, and way cheaper machines. According to their own 2024 demographic report, a brutal 68% of Harley owners are now over age 50. That's not a fan base. That's a retirement plan on wheels, and only 9% of riders are under 35. That's the entire future of motorcycling, completely missing from Harley's customer base. It's like the brand skipped an entire generation and decided the only people who deserve to ride are the ones with a bad back and a pension. Let's not pretend this is shocking. Harley's most popular models, like the Street Glide and Road King, are huge, heavy, and cost more than most used cars. Sure, baby boomers love them. They look great parked outside a steakhouse on a Sunday afternoon. But to the average younger rider, these bikes are outdated dinosaurs. They're too bulky, too slow, and priced like luxury watches, without the performance to match. Young people want agility, affordability, and something that doesn't feel like a parade float on 2 wheels. Harley just refuses to read the room. And when they finally tried to build something for the youth, it was the equivalent of your uncle showing up at Coachella in cargo shorts. The Harley Street 750 and the electric LiveWire 1 were their big youthful plays. What happened? LiveWire sales tanked by 41% in 2024, despite Harley burning $29 million on advertising. Imagine blowing that much money and still getting ghosted by your target audience. The LiveWire wasn't just a flop, it was a full-blown identity crisis. A quiet Harley? Who asked for that? Definitely not Gen Z. Meanwhile, the real motorcycle scene, the one actually growing, has moved on. YouTube reviewers catering to young bikers don't even bother with Harley. They're all over the Yamaha MT series and the Kawasaki Z lineup. These bikes are nimble, sleek, modern, and most importantly, affordable. Harley's nowhere to be seen. You search "best bikes for beginners" on YouTube, and Harley might as well be extinct. They've been filtered out of the conversation by sheer irrelevance, and it's not like they're trying that hard to fix it. Harley's idea of youth appeal? Slap Bluetooth on a $21,000 midlife crisis and call it innovation, No joke, that's their big pitch. Gen Z doesn't want a Bluetooth speaker glued to a 700-pound chrome antique. They want something that doesn't need a yoga stretch to mount and a loan officer to buy. Now, speaking of money, let's talk about Harley's pricing. The Iron 8 83 is supposed to be their entry-level cruiser. Entry-level? At $11,999? For that kind of money, you'd expect basic modern features. Ride modes, traction control, a TFT display, the kind of things bikes have had since 2015. But nope. The Iron 8 83 gives you the bare minimum. You're basically paying $12 grand for a logo and a loud pipe. Meanwhile, bikes half the price come loaded with features Harley doesn't even bother with. Then came the Pan America 1250, their shot at the adventure market. It was marketed as a disruptor, a bold new step. But even motorcycle media wasn't buying it. Revzilla said it was clunky, expensive, and trying too hard to be a BMW GS. That's the nice way of saying Harley tried to cosplay as an adventure brand and face-planted. The Pan America looked confused. It rode confused. And the only people who bought it were the ones Harley confused into thinking it was something new. And let's not forget the ghost of AMF still haunting the halls. Ever since that cursed acquisition back in the 1970s, Harley's reliability has been a running joke. Fast forward to 2023 and boom, over 39,000 bikes recalled in a single year. For what? Brakes, fuel systems, suspension, you name it. Harley's recall record reads like a bingo card of mechanical failure. They've had decades to fix this, and somehow still keep tripping over their own bolts. It's no wonder people are jumping ship. A Reddit thread in 2025 titled, "Why I Dumped My Harley for a Honda," blew up with 18,000 upvotes. And the reasons? Better build, smoother performance, and 40% cost savings. That's not a preference. That's a flat-out rejection. People are done overpaying for metal dinosaurs that break down more than they rev up. Harley's bikes are like designer handbags, shiny, overpriced, and useless in bad weather. Harley's not just stalling, it's spiraling. Tap subscribe to stay tuned as this wild ride keeps crashing.